Salutations from space and aloha from Earth, friends. Are we live yet? It's always hard to say. But today is Friday, it's Venus's day. Everyone make love. I want to start here in this transmission where we will get into applying harmonic astrology in relationship. I'm going to start with a video and some photographs that I took yesterday of the most amazingly beautiful Libra Moon Venus conjunction. So let me put my camera away and I will share those with you. Am I muted? Libra. Oh, I see. All right, cool. Sorry. Let me just play this for you and then I'll be back on the other side. It's like a 3-minute thing. Oh, buttons. Seriously, y'all, where's my buttons? All right. This is all unprofessional. I'm gonna try that all again. Venus and Mars, so close. For some, an actual occultation where Moon was visibly seen hiding Venus for a short time as she passed by here in California, where those photos and videos were taken. Simply a very tight conjunction. It's such a beautiful thing to see. What's more beautiful than the gathering of these goddesses, Moon and Venus? What you just heard, that beautiful piano, was by the great Eric Deutsch, a dear friend of mine, a beloved brother who I team up with to create those soul songs, music based upon natal charts. And that was a little bit of the song that Eric created based upon my production notes for my beloved Scorpiana, who I'm glad to honor in that way at any Venusian time. And so where I sit here in California, Venus's Day. By the way, we had a tough start here. We're going to have kind of a second start because I'm going to bring the Instagram folks in on this just for a little bit. But I mostly want to do this here at YouTube so I can share some charts with you. If you are interested in getting a soul song for your birth chart or for somebody that you love, you can find that offering at geminibrett.com. geminibrett.com/sessions will get you to my scheduling page if you want to do a session with me, looking at the harmonics of your relationship astrology, for example, which is something I'm working on. I see many of you here live are coming in from Australia, where it is Saturn's Day and already 11:11, which is just fun, right? But I'm back in 11:10 if you're into that whole Gregorian trip and this weird time zone thing. The sun is very high in the sky. I don't have much time between now and my next session, which is in about 30 minutes. So going to be a bit of a short one, and hence why I called this Harmonics and Relationship Astrology Part 1. Love seeing y'all active in the chat. Thanks for that. Thanks for being here. At some point, we'll do some live examples with some of you. But let me bring the Instagram people in here. So I'm going to introduce this again, and then we'll stay here, and we're going to look at one chart example. All right? Okay, buttons. 3, 2, 1. Salutations from space and aloha from Earth, friends. Gemini Brett here on Venus's Day, Friday. So everyone make love. I wanted to share something that I love with you, actually something I'm obsessed with now, which is harmonic astrology. For one reason, because it combines so many of the things I love so much, like number magic and number in space, which is sacred geometry, number in time, which is sacred harmony, frequency, and number in space and time, which is astronomy, right? It might be my greatest love of all of these. So these days I'm just playing all of these different instruments to try to understand more about the relationships between vibrations and how can I bring more of that into my astrology. And it's something I've been doing a lot with clients lately, and seemingly with positive results, although I will say it's kind of a very like fringe place to be in astrology. It's like new. I mean, importantly, we do have ancient tradition with so-called divisional charts. Some of these in the Vedic astrology tradition are harmonic charts, some are not. The Nimvamsha, perhaps the most utilized of the divisional charts in Jyotisha and in Vedic astrology, is the 9th harmonic, and that one is like a quote-unquote proper harmonic, taking the zodiac and splitting into 9 little mini zodiacs. For a 5th harmonic, there's 5 zodiacs within the zodiacs. For the 2nd harmonic, 2 zodiacs within the zodiac, right? And I'm not here to teach the entirety of like the fundamentals of harmonic astrology, but for me, I'm trying to source what these things are, these kind of mystical connections, sometimes hidden connections, certainly like little known and investigated connections through music and through number magic, which is how I like to call the quality of number numerology, through sacred geometry, because there's very little research that has been done so far, for example, on like the 23rd harmonic Places I will go are like David Hamlin's work in the Spirit of Numbers. Yeah, and then I kind of hit and miss on that one for me. Also, vibrational astrology, David Cochran's take on an evolution of harmonic astrology, going back into some of the pioneers of harmonic astrology in like the 1970s, like John Addy, for example. I'm looking at a bunch of books over there also from the 80s, like Nona Press and Delphine J and others. And I find some of them speak and some of them don't. I will say this importantly about harmonic astrology. I often find that harmonic astrologers like see that the system works so well. This idea, which is really based only on aspect theory, right? Aspect means to see. All right. And so in the old Greek aspect theory, or let's say the ancient aspect theory, right? Each sign can see 7 other signs. We can see the one opposite us. We can see those on the trines, 2 of those, 2 squares, 2 sextiles, and that's it. And every sign has 4 inconjuncts, the neighboring signs and also the neighbors of the opposition, the so-called quincunx, which is 5/12 of the zodiac in this way or that, right? Well, when I'm working with clients and I see, for example, that their relationship astrology seems to suggest from their natal chart that there's like a blindness, an inconjunct in the way that they will relate to their partner. And sometimes this actually means that it's very hard to find the partner. Sometimes you're in experiences with partners where it's just hard to see eye to eye. Sometimes there's like hidden or shady things going on in relationship. Certainly we don't need to see an inconjunct between the so-called rulers of the 1st and 7th houses, or maybe between Venus and Mars, or Sun and Moon, or however it is that you get after a relationship in your astrology, for there to be shady shit like cheating or whatever. But often I find that when people are having these experiences like hidden things in relationships, it is indicated in these relationship significators in the astrology chart having some kind of invisibility between them. Sometimes it's not invisible at all, it's just straight up tension, which is like a square, right? And it's not like that means you are cursed to have very tense relationship experiences for the rest of your life, okay? But I would suggest that it's woven into the fates for you to have to go through this gauntlet of relationship tension to find the beauty on the other side. Whether that's done with one relationship partner or 7, right? Or 6 to find that 7th, or 1 to find that 2nd who is the one, or whatever, right? Like that's going to depend so much, I feel, on how we dance to the song, how our free will, I guess, brings our exercise to express the fates and dance with. You see, like that's how I'm just personally inclined. Anyway, in harmonic astrology, I might see things like, so for example, today is Venus's day where I am. And when Venus rose, because Venus is now in Libra, Libra was rising. Some astrologers just like Venus and Mars in general to speak for relationship. Certainly when Libra's rising from a traditional point of view, where Venus is the guidess of the 1st, which is me, and when Libra's rising, Aries is setting, so Mars, Aries, the guide of the 7th, the other, right? When Libra's rising, or Taurus, Venus is signs, or Aries is rising, or Scorpio, Mars is signs. And the relationship axis, 1 and 7, me and we, is significated by Venus and Mars. Right, so right now we have Venus and Mars both in power from an old school point of view. Venus in Libra, Mars in Scorpio. They are both home. Yeah. Venus perhaps more powerful, at least from an observational point of view, because we can see her. She's bright and brilliant and amazing. For those of you who are watching on YouTube right now, we just watched video of that Moon-Venus conjunction from yesterday, which was just so lovely. When Moon conjoins Mars, we won't see it. That will be the new moon coming this moon day, this Monday. Mars is currently under the beams, literally behind the sun, right? And so this combustion, this disappearance into the fire of light from an old school point of view, takes some of Mars's strength away. right? So there's many ways just to kind of look at Venus and Mars in this case, like as relationship significators. I'll say I'm going to rewind the clock to when Libra was rising this morning. And like their kind of dynamics. Now, traditionally, Libra, where Venus currently is, and Scorpio, where Mars currently is, are in conjunct. They don't see eye to eye. Now, many astrologers these days refer this term in conjunct for quincunx signs, 150 degrees, 5/12ths of the wheel. So, for example, from Libra to opposite, next to the opposition, opposite Libra is Aries. So Pisces is 5/12ths in one direction from Libra, and 5/12ths in the other direction, Taurus. Okay. So these are said to be blind spots in conjuncts, but traditionally Libra is also blind to Virgo and Scorpio, our neighbors. Can't see them, too close. Can't move the head that far, you see. So, I mean, I might see that somebody has, let's say Venus and Mars are indicative of relationship in a chart right now. Well, so they're in conjunct by whole sign, by plates. Traditionally, this is called platic. Just Libra and Scorpio are in conjunct. But the whole sign aspect, or traditionally lack of aspect associated with the geometry of two signs in the wheel, right? This in the seed of life is 30 degrees. So the semi-sextile is what this is called these days, right? Half of a sextile. And it's, I mean, it's just very evident of traditional aspect theory when you would call 30 degrees, not by its own name, but by half of a sextile, right? Because traditionally the sextile is 60 degrees, the hexagon they were once called for that reason, like that's the first aspect. So anyway, semi-sextile 30 degrees. Well, this is not the geometric relationship of Venus and Mars now. Venus is currently at the 3rd degree of tropical Libra, and Mars at the 21st degree of tropical Scorpio. And I could get, well, you know what, I will get more specific with that. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'll put a chart on the screen for you. If I can find the button. Buttons, anyone? Buttons. There. Okay. Sorry for those who are watching on Instagram. You're like, what's he doing? Come over into YouTube if you want to see the chart. My YouTube is Gemini Brett. I'm going to rewind some hours today. Friday, Venus's Day, November 10th. I have the chart cast for where I currently live in Richmond, California. I'm just going to go here to like 4 a.m. and at the time 13 or about 14 Libra is rising. The moon is about to rise. Venus has already risen. So Venus was then at 217 Libra and Mars at 2010 Scorpio. So they're in conjunct, right? Blind. They can't see one another. And again, like the plate or whole sign aspect or geometry, let me say, because traditionally there is no aspect between neighboring signs. That's the point of this thing. They're blind to one another. That geometry of one sign to the next is 30 degrees, a 12th of the wheel. This is the 12th harmonic, dividing the circle into 12s. That's the plates of the signs. And there's a good reason for this. Creation creates in 12s. And the geometry proves this. The music proves this. All right, but Venus and Mars were not 30 degrees apart. They, at the time, with Venus at 217 Libra and Mars at 2010 Scorpio, were about 48 degrees apart. A little bit less. And so this is where like I have to break the calculator out and this thing gets a little bit nerdy, which can very much turn us off off, right? But if I just want to say, okay, the rulers of the first and the seventh, Venus and Mars, they're in this in conjunct. If this is a natal thing, there might be some of that hidden stuff going on. Mars, who rules the seventh, represents the other. He's opposite Uranus. He's under the beams of the sun. There's something hidden. There's something traumatic. There's something weird. He's also applying to trine Pisces Neptune. There's something mystical and beautiful, which can be hidden. But, when we have hidden things in the relationship significators, the idea is to move through the shadowy and shady experiences of hidden things like cheating, for example, or somebody hiding their addiction from me or whatever, like so many different examples, or we just can't see eye to eye, and getting into the beautiful side of hidden things, like we are exploring the mysteries together. We sit and breathe together and pass the energy ball of chi, and you know what I'm saying? Like tune into the things that can't be seen with our eyes open, but rather only with our eyes closed, with the inner eye opens in this, And I like to suggest that that's part of the promise, or at least the potential of the nativity, when the relationship significators themselves are blind to one another. However, I will also do other astrologies to try to help these two see eye to eye. Sometimes there's a planet that sees them both. Well, maybe that planet will serve as a mediator, maybe even introducing, and I've seen this play out literally in people's lives. These two can't see each other, the me and the other, and yet then there's this third person in the 11th house of friends who's moon and super nurturing, and she's like, hey, you should meet this guy, and then we get together. It's amazing. All right, but so another thing I can do is like a harmonic analysis. And while I find many who fall in love with harmonic astrology kind of see it as it replaces astrology, it's the new astrology. I have a hard time with that because I see that my astrology now works really well. And it's founded first and foremost on the plates and in traditional aspect theory and in whole sign relationships between the archetypes and such. But what if I want to add this other piece? I would prefer to add harmonics rather than have harmonics replace what I do. Do you see what I mean? It's another tool to use. So when I look at the geometrical relationship between Venus and Mars, and by the way, in this case, right now, I'm only doing this in Zodiaco, the zodiac degrees that currently host the travel of Venus and Mars, even though at this time of the chart I'm looking at, Venus was a degree and a third away from the ecliptic. This is called celestial latitude. Mars, right at his node, is like exactly ecliptic right now, okay? So if I really wanted to get into the geometric relationship of Earth, Venus, and Mars, I should probably get even more mathematical and do what would be called, I guess, an in mundo harmonic. I don't think anybody's doing that. I actually sent a message to David Cochran this morning, like, dude, have you experimented with in mundo harmonics? But let's stay in Zodiaca right now, zodiac degrees, okay? So Venus is at 2, and Mars is at Libra, and Mars is at 20 Scorpio. Well, how far apart are those two? So first of all, the plates, Libra and Scorpio, and neighboring signs, 30 degrees. But 2 Libra is semi-sextile, or 30 degrees away from 2 Scorpio, right? And Mars is another 18 degrees further along. So it's 30 plus 18, it's 48 degrees. I could get more specific than that right now, but I'm just going to stick with 48 degrees. And then the question becomes, well, what is the fraction of the zodiac found in 48 degrees of phase? I don't know how to ask that question, right, in a way that makes sense, but let me say it like this. How much of the wheel is 30 degrees? And the answer is 1/12, right? 360 degrees, the circle, divided by 30, 1/12, right? That's the 12th harmonic. Well, how much of the wheel is 48 degrees? And so we break out the calculators, right? And I just divide 360. Sorry, breaking out the calculators. I divide 360 degrees, the wheel, by 48. And the answer is 7.5. Okay? So they are, well, and what I'm going to do here is I want to tame that number, is what I call it. I want to make it into a whole number. This one's very easy to do. 7.5. What number could I multiply 7.5 by to get a whole number? And the answer is 2. Any halves, right? So I'm going to multiply 7.5 times 2, and I get 15, right? And this means that Venus and Mars, 48 degrees apart from one another in this example chart that I'm looking at, they're 2/15 of the zodiac away from one another, right? So what is a 15th of the zodiac? If I divide the 360 degrees of the wheel by 15, I get 24 degrees, right? So 24 degrees is 1/15 of a circle. What is 2/15? 24 plus 24, 48 degrees. So right now, Venus and Mars are separated by 2/15 of the wheel. And by the way, this means that if I cast a 15th harmonic chart, Venus and Mars are going to be conjunct. For those on you on YouTube, you see this chart on the screen. This is a 15th harmonic chart of this example that I'm using, 4 a.m. Pacific time, November 10th, 2023, Richmond, California. So it's not only Venus and Mars come together, but they're opposite the moon. Like the harmonic chart is super interesting, right? And so all of that's going to be part of it. But in general, there's this question of, does 15thness help me understand something about the relationship between the two planets who represent relationship in this chart, right? Because Libra is rising, Venus represents me. Because Scorpio is setting, Mars represents the other. So Venus and Mars can be worked with to determine something about relationship, patterning in the chart. Well, from a Platic whole sign point of view, Venus and Mars are inconjunct, blind to one another. But when I expand into higher harmonics beyond just the 12, I find, because they're 48 degrees apart, they're 2/15 of the zodiac away from one another. So might that 15thness help me understand more about how Venus and Mars, as significators for relationship in this chart, can relate to one another, and maybe help process some of the potential shady experiences of inconjunct, invisibility. Are they sneaking around? Are they hiding from one another? Can I never find the other because they're in some place I can't see, right? All right, well, what is the 15th harmonic? And this is where things get super challenging. You can go to the very few sources we have on harmonic astrology that go up to the 15th harmonic. Oh, so John Addy, Charles Harvey, Michael Harding. I'm reading names off books over here. Nona Gwen Press, Delphine J, David Cochran, Rick Levine, and I are meant to be having a conversation about harmonics next Wednesday at Astrology Hub Space. So I'll be asking him. David Cochran, whose vibrational astrology is a beautiful expansion of or evolution of harmonic astrology in the way that he's hearing it. David Hamblin, in this interesting work, The Spirit of Numbers, won't actually get into the 15 because he's exploring only the primes. All right, and so here, well, 15 is not a prime because it's 5 times 3. Now, typically, this is one of the ways we'll get after it. Like, let me read to you from David Cochran's work, just little key notes for 3, 5, and 13. Can I find those here? Yeah. So this is from Vibrational Astrology, The Essentials by David Cochran. In short meanings of some vibrational charts. He says for the 5, creative play. For the 3, ease and harmony. So what do you think the 15 is going to be? Here's the 15. Smooth, creative play. Do you see what happened? He just combined 3, ease and harmony, with 5, creative play. So smooth, creative play. Now, if it was 10, which is 5 and 2, actually, let me read on that page what he says about 10. The 2 is in opposition. It's half of the wheel. So othership, right? Relationship. So 10, shared play, right? Because 5, he's calling creative play. 10 is 2 and 5. So how do we do 5 with another? And he calls it shared play. Now, when I see the 10 show up for folks, or even the 5 in between relationship significators, and by the way, they might have like Venus and Mars, or let's say Mercury and Jupiter represent the relationship axis. That's how it is in my chart. They might have them square by plates, by signs, and it's like, oh, there's tension. But by degree, which is the partile, maybe they're 72 degrees away from one another. But in signs that are square to one another, well, that's 72, the quintile, the 1/5 of a circle, 72 degrees is 360 degrees divided by 5. Well, that suggests be playful, be creative. Have you done art? Have you made music with partners? And maybe go take a music class and you could meet a partner there, because the 5 does have this very kind of artistic expression. But importantly, it's the way life arts. Now, for me, 3, which we do have this like historical understanding of, because for so long the trine has been known as the greater benefic aspect, like Jupiter is known as the greater benefic planet in traditional astrology. In fact, the trine is traditionally associated with Jupiter. Leo, Sun's trine Sagittarius, Jupiter. Cancer, Moon, trine Pisces, Jupiter. Jupiter said to be the trine. And we hear this, it's just easy, it's flowing. But for me, it's so much more. The 2 is me and the other. The 3 is the relationship between the 2, right? Which, by the way, it's already 6, because what's my understanding of our relationship versus their understanding of our relationship? And when I get into this stuff, it just gets crazy. And it's hard to like language in such a way that it can be received. So I want to do some chart examples. And I'm just looking at the time. I'm not going to be able to do that today. That's probably, or until later today, which I might, because I watched a little thing last night that had me inspired to look at the relationship charts, of a couple of celebrities that I saw interviewed in the High Wire, which is a place I like to be weekly. And so I'm excited to just like look into those charts. They're charts I've never looked at before. And what if I take this harmonic analysis to see if there's something that's described in relationship for each of these married people who are married, and see if somehow the harmonics also in each of their charts suggest some kind of synastry or them coming together. That will be my hypothesis, is that will be seen. I've done no work on the charts yet. I want to do that live. I would rather, like, instead of just, I will let the experiment's results help me understand more about the thing. Like, I will allow my hypothesis to be wrong, right? And it's easier to do that when it's happening in front of an audience, as far as I'm concerned, right? But if it's right, then it's like, cool, let's take this further. If it's wrong, cool, well, let's like switch what this is and then take that further, right? Like, that's kind of where I am in working with harmonics at this point. I'm seeing it totally speaking when I'm connecting with people in things like, oh, what is the harmonic aspect between the planet that significates career in the midheaven? Is that going to tell me more about different ways you can do career in such a way that you can make a loving and not just make a living? When there's relationship challenge, difficulty, or even beauty, what if I look at these harmonics between the significators of relationship in the chart? How do I get that? Well, I start traditionally. But let me add this new tool of harmonic astrology, certainly new for me, on top of that and play with it. Yeah. So I think, later today when I'm done with my sessions, I'll try to get on for harmonics and relationship astrology part 2. I want to do that in such a way that I will be able to share charts, which unfortunately I can't do at Instagram yet. So join me at my YouTube channel. Let me even just look at my schedule quickly, and I'll put this on the schedule at the end of my day of readings. I don't know how well that plays in my relationship because I have a long day. But anyway, I will. So I'll be on my YouTube channel, which is Gemini Brett, at 4 p.m. Pacific time today, November 10th, 2023, for Harmonics in Relationship Astrology Part 2. And hopefully you'll join me there. We'll do a couple of chart examples. All right. Thanks for playing with me. Happy Venus's Day. Regardless of the harmonic aspectual relationship between the significators of love in your chart, may love lead the way today and all days, and may there be peace on earth. Imagine that. See you in space, friends. Buttons. All right, 4 p.m. today. Hopefully you'll be back here. And the recording will be there